some stuffed cabbage soup. And right now we are collecting some onions. We collected cabbage for our sauerkraut, and we're gonna use what's left that we couldn't fit in the jars for the actual soup part. You'll see the sauerkraut episode later, but I digress. So we're gonna go ahead and grab some onions out of the garden. They're still kind of small right now, but that's all right because they'll serve our purpose well. Now it looks like I'm pulling a lot of the onions, and I kind of am, but on the plus side, I did bring some brand new little baby bulbs from my grandpa's garden when I went to visit him. So we will be planting those before too long, and then they'll sit all through the fall and winter. And I think that'll be good for our soup. We've got 1, 2, 4, 9 of them. Big beautiful things. We're gonna get inside and get these washed. And again, we've already got our cabbage inside, and then all we need is all the other stuff. All right, so to start out our stuffed cabbage soup, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and brown up some ground beef. I have also used ground turkey in this. Totally fine, totally delicious. So this ground beef we actually bought locally, and we bought a half a cow, and so we've got probably, I don't know, it seems like 100 pounds of this stuff in the freezer, so I don't think we're gonna run out anytime soon. But we're just gonna start by browning that, and while that's kind of working, we're gonna move over this way and chop up some veggies. All right, so now we're gonna chop some vegetables. And because I'm winging this, we're actually going to be writing down the recipe as we go. So that's like 1.25 pounds of ground beef. And now we've got some celery. Alright, so I'd say that's about a cup of celery. Let's write that down before I forget. I've never been a recipe person, so you might want to bear with me. This is much easier with 2 hands, but sometimes we're just not afforded that luxury. And here I have some fresh oregano from my grandpa's herb garden. He let me pick some when we were visiting. Gonna chop some of that up. So I know, again, you guys can't smell this, but I wish that you could, because the aroma coming off of this fresh oregano is amazing. And I just love that I got it from my grandpa's garden. So it's a little bit of that nostalgia, feels like coming home type thing going on. We'll just throw that in with the celery. That was, what do you think, like 2 tablespoons of fresh. So that'd be like a teaspoon or so of dried. Bear with me, I'm winging those measurements. All right, we've got like a tablespoon of minced garlic. Now we're gonna move on to our carrots. So, I went ahead and just put the compost bucket over here because it's easier than me trying to have a pile and move everything. So just chopping the nubs off of those. about 4 large carrots. What did you say, like 1.5 cups, 2 cups? We'll go with that. All right. Now these are the onions that we picked just a smidge ago. Say that made like a cup. The meat's just about brown, and if you had all your stuff prepped already, which obviously I don't, you could start throwing in some of your veggies now because they're gonna cook with the meat for a while before you add any of the other stuff. So this beautiful cabbage came from Sarah's garden, and it's amazing and we love it. And then we've got these that are all of the stemmy bits from when we cut them down for the sauerkraut. So these work great for soup. I seem to be running out of space in my bowl, so I'm just gonna go ahead and throw these in with the hamburger meat because they're going to take a little bit longer to cook anyway. Now it's going to look like a lot of cabbage, but we really like cabbage. So there.
Plus it cooks down so much.
Yeah, it does cook down a lot. All right, gonna move this cabbage over there too. Let it cook. I'm actually gonna put a lid on it. And I'm gonna let that just kind of chill out for a while. Probably like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes. I'm not gonna set a timer, but we'll see if I remember it or not. And now we wait. We're gonna let that cook. And I guess I'll get some spices out. But I'll show you this when we come back. All right, so it's been like, what would you say, like 10 minutes?
Sure.
The cabbage has been steaming in here with the meat. It looks good, it's starting to wilt some. So now we're gonna go ahead and add in our other vegetables so they can get going too. Throw in a little bit of better than bouillon. That's maybe a tablespoon. Let's put that on here.
sweet paprika?
This is the smoked paprika.
Okay.
Let me adjust here. Let's see, I didn't cheat. Alright, and fun fact, I forgot the ground mustard. But never fear, we've got yellow mustard. Just a quick little squeezy squeeze. That's all you need. I know it sounds crazy, but it's delicious. So we've got all that mixed together. And then I've got about 2 cups of tomatoes that are from Sarah's garden last year that had been frozen. And we thawed it out. And we're going to throw those in here. Essentially, it's a tomato sauce. Or crushed tomatoes. I think it's crushed tomatoes. So we're throwing that in there. Now we're going to take this same thing, instead of dirtying dishes, and I'm going to add some water to this. And that gets all that leftover tomato stuff that was in there. I'm going to add just a little bit more because I want it to be juicy. That's about where you want it to be. And then we're going to let this simmer for like 15-20 minutes once it gets to simmering. And then we'll add some rice. You can cook rice just for this, but we just happen to have leftover rice from this morning. I've also used some quick barley in this. Just threw it in, let it sit for 10 minutes, and it was fantastic, but we like to use what we have on hand. I mean, we're not going out to the grocery store every time we make a video. That would be ridiculous. Most of what we use is stuff that we use regularly. We're not doing the fancy shenanigans. I mean, occasionally we'll do fancy shenanigans, but 90% of what we do is stuff that we already have because we're real people. We're not some TV show where they have weird ingredients like sea urchins. We're not gonna have that. I am going to taste this real quick, make sure the seasoning's right where I want it to be. Hopefully I didn't oversalt it because Sarah reminded me that you can't take salt away. You didn't see that? But it is perfect. Now, if I wasn't making it for a bunch of kids, I would also add in some crushed red pepper and give it a little kick, a little jazziness. But there's going to be 4 kids eating it. So maybe spicy isn't the thing. But again, we're going to leave this sit for about 15-20 minutes until everything's a little bit more soft, and then we'll throw in the rice, and then it'll be ready to eat. Alrighty, it's been about 17 minutes because I got impatient. And what we're going to do is we're going to take one of these big chunks of carrots. I'll set it over there to cool for a second because I don't feel like burning my mouth off. But we're going to try that, see if it's soft enough. And really, once the carrots are soft enough, you can pretty much guarantee that everything else is. See, that's good for me. I don't like them to have no texture. I don't like them to be like soggy. But to me, they're perfect right now. So I'm gonna turn the alarm off. And then we've got 2 cups of rice that Sarah's husband was gracious enough to cook this morning and leave behind. We're gonna throw that in there. I'm actually gonna turn off the stove at this point because the soup's obviously still hot. And pulling that out of the fridge, it'll get the soup just cool enough to be edible without third-degree burns. Alright, and that is our stuffed cabbage soup. It's done. It's super healthy because it's got your veggies, it's got the rice, which is, you know, one of the better starches. And the meat that we used is super, super lean because again, we had it butchered ourselves. So they didn't add a bunch of the fat and junk to it. So this is probably one of the healthiest meals that I've made on here. There's no lard in it, which I'm gonna make a lot of things with lard, let's be honest. But this doesn't have it. So, ladle. Bowl. Actually, I'm not gonna dirty this bowl. Just gonna use the one that the rice was in. Big old scooparoo. And I like the juices in mine. Look at that. Let's get some cabbage. Really don't feel like burning my mouth this time and making that weird face that I did in that first the chicken and dumpling video, because that was kind of gross. Those fresh from the garden vegetables, that lean meat, this is so good and it makes me feel good. And all those vegetables are gonna be good for my gut, good for your gut, good for the kids' guts. Might be a little gassy, but that's all right. A little gas never hurt anyone, unless you're in a business meeting, in which case it hurts a lot. So this is it for today. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. The recipe will be in the description. And I mean, remember that I was winging the recipe as we went, and that's kind of how recipes are formed, obviously. I think I'm rambling. But anyway, like, share, subscribe. We look forward to seeing you next week. Always make sure, for the best flavors, to lick the spoon.
I should probably get rid of some of this fry, but I grew that.
Sarah's really, really proud of her cabbages. She's behind the camera crying right now because she's just so happy. That last onion did hit me. Right after I said they're not bothering my eyes, it's like, oh, okay, wait. Never mind. Oh, look at that. If you like attention to it,